Welcome to the Tailoring Talk Show with me, your host, Roberto Revilla. I'm a bespoke tailor, menswear designer, and owner of Roberto Revilla London Suit and Shirt Makers. It's the podcast where you drop in for the threads, but often leave with something quite unexpected. We meet self-starters and creators to learn about their journeys, the highs and lows, and the lessons they've learned along the way. Please support the show by subscribing, and if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, it helps so much if you take a few seconds to rate and review the show. My guest today's passion is to unlock the potential of every business owner, shift them into the investor seat in their business, and unlock the true joy and reward of business ownership so they can truly do life and business on their terms and live what he calls their very own big ticket life. Here to help you business owners and me get out of our own way. Tailoring Talkers, please welcome Jeff. That's what I needed to ask you, Jeff. How do you pronounce your surname?
Giagnocavo.
Giagnocavo. So the G,
Yeah.
The second G is silent.
It is. The second G was one of those Ellis Island inserts that we have the paperwork. My one uncle found it, and it was inserted at Ellis Island, and we never knew it. And because I was so committed to it and learned how to say it and spell it and tell others in kindergarten, I've just kept it Giagnocavo all this time. But in the old country, it was Giagnocavo.
Yeah, I had a similar conversation with, I want to say it's Jason Saccone. I don't know if you know him through our Podmatch community, but it was a similar Ellis Island story there as well. It's because Giagnocavo. I'm also trying not to cough as well. Giagnocavo is Italian in origin.
It is, yeah.
It is, yeah. See, Jason, same thing. Jason Saccone, and it kind of came over to the States as something, but then got slightly changed, and they didn't know about it until afterwards. And then that's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, Tailoring Talkers, please welcome Jeff Giagnocavo to the Tailoring Talk Show. Jeff, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on your show. Happy to be here.
You're absolutely welcome. I'm probably going to leave that a little bit in, actually, because it's kind of quite nice. So, Jeff, you are calling in all the way from Reading in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
You own Gardner's Mattress and More, which is the premier bedding specialist in that region of the States.
It is.
How many stores do you have?
Well, I have one, and but we do about enough business of what my peers would say is about 4 or 5 stores worth of business out of one location. Wow. I'm fanatical about that 5-star experience, and so we choose to manage the one store and really just maximize that footprint, that operational capacity. And my business partner and I, Ben, we have a business that we very much enjoy, and that works for us.
Yeah, I mean, we've got something kind of in common. I mean, not just with our approach to 5-star service and so on in our respective businesses, but my father, he owned a store, and that's where I used to spend most of my time. When I wasn't in school, it was straight back there, kind of helping to unload trucks and load up vans for deliveries to customers and things. And I have shifted more mattresses than I think any person could actually imagine they could count to. It would actually, almost looking back, it would be the worst thing if I got back from school and my dad would be like, "Hey, have you got any homework?" And I was so scared of him because he was such a disciplinarian. I would just say no, which meant that I would have to do it by torchlight at like 2 a.m. And he'd be like, "Okay, good, because we just had a big delivery and you need to shift that." And he'd point to like a container load full of, and it was usually all the, the kind of 4'6", 5 feet. Right. And if I was really unlucky, it'd be the orthopedics, which are like the heaviest.
Yeah. That's cool that your father had a mattress store. That's neat. So, I, at one point, was a partner with Vispring, which is a English brand.
Yeah.
And had the pleasure of coming over I think it was like 2014 or 15. We visited the factory, did the whole tour, spent time at Harrods, um, in that gallery, which was very, very cool to experience that. Took some things away about that experience, brought that home to the States. So yeah, it's cool that we got that connection.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There was a brand, I don't know if this is the actual. Oh, by the way, listeners, I just as Jeff and I got on the call, my tickly cough decided to rear its head, and so if I start coughing or weird things happen, just forgive me. Um, so yeah, I remember when I worked for a US company, and so I was in the US all the time, and there was a brand of mattress, and I think, does Heavenly Beds mean anything?
So Heavenly is a hotel brand.
Ah,
I want to say Sheridan or Marriott. I think it's
yeah,
Sheridan.
one of those.
But it was made by Simmons Mattress Company
Okay.
and still going. And so that's where you would experience it. One of those hotel brands, either Sheridan or Marriott. I forget exactly which one.
Yeah. But I mean, they were just like the most amazing things to sleep
Mhm.
on. Would Vicesprung be like an equivalent, do you think?
Vice Spring would be above that for sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Vice Spring was always interesting to present to our guests because, a lot of folks equate the best with price. And, you know, sometimes that's true, but more times it's not the best fit for that customer.
Yeah.
So often, we had to very delicately and continue to, we have to continue to sort, is this a personality driven question, right? That like this person, like they will not spend anything less than the most expensive ticket
Yeah.
in the business, in the practice, whatever. So you have to delicately blend that because in what we do, Vice Spring, we had, I think the top of the mark there was about 25 grand US. And so if I'm going to have somebody give me $25,000, they have to love it. Like they
Yeah.
can't just be enamored with the fact that they spent 25,000 on a mattress. They have to really love it. And so
Yeah.
sometimes the biggest, best ticket isn't the best fit.
Yeah.
And we always had to delicately handle those conversations and try to understand who that person was in front of us. You can tell by the
Yeah.
clothing, the watches, the cars, but it's not always foolproof, right? And so Vice Spring was definitely top of the mark for us at that time. And we would always dial in. That's still what we do to this day. We dial into the fit. One of our language tracks is let's have a conversation to see how our solutions fit your needs. And
Yeah.
sometimes we're not always a fit.
Yeah.
And that simple statement, for that person that is approaching this without genuine interest in solving their sleep, they'll push back on that statement. What do you mean not a fit? You don't want to sell me a mattress? Not if we can't find the right fit, we don't.
See, this is why, like, do you realize how many lessons you just dropped in the
Mhm.
last couple minutes? It's crazy. And this is why I love what we do as business owners. There are so many similarities because the principles, the roots are the same.
Yeah.
I just happen to be in clothing. You happen to be in the business of giving people a much better night's sleep or the
Yeah.
the night's sleep of their lives. But the principle's the same because we get exactly the same thing. We'll get people come in that want to spend, the most amount of money on a suit or whatever, the finest fabrics and that sort of thing. But then when we really get into it and, what are you actually doing in this thing? Okay, well, you can spend that much money, but there's no point because you're just going to either destroy the thing or look like you've been sleeping in it for, after 6 hours. It's not the right thing for you. And you kind of almost have to just educate them and then start to bring them a little
Yeah.
back down. Wow.
Yeah.
And it's
Actually,
no,
on that note of fabrics and materials, Vice Spring in London is actually where I learned about vicuña fibers and
oh,
wools.
yeah,
You're I'm sure familiar with that. Ties and sport coats that,
absolutely.
you pick them up, they're light as a feather and
Yeah,
they're 40 and 50 and maybe more now that I'm dating. This is almost an 8-year-old conversation, but 40, $50,000 garments, as I understood them to be. but that might not be the right fit. But that person that just equates best with price, which again, sometimes is the case, but they still have to be happy as they enjoy it after they leave your business. And we're always focused on that fit. That's where we specialize.
And with that attitude, no wonder you're 5-star customer service rated and all the rest of it.
Yep.
And, you're obviously you and your business partner, fiercely passionate about retaining that, because I'm guessing it's the attitude you went in when you very first started the business and you opened your doors, and you've just kept that, held to that principle to the present day, and will continue to do so.
Yeah, it is. It's, interesting on what you said about starting out. I have a 22-year career at this point in the furniture and mattress trade. I've flown around the globe. I've been in factories sourcing and creating product, launching brands. Being home and being with my family has turned out in the last decade or so to be what's most important to me, which is why I have planted my roots locally. But the early part of my career, I saw a lot of good, bad, and ugly of retail. And I was actually a value guy. I would sell a truckload of mattresses at wholesale for now what we sell one system for at retail. And I opened up the retail store understanding that the experience matters and really finding that right fit matters. And selling quality is a lot easier than selling price. And with those three things in mind, we launched the business and haven't looked back.
Yeah, phenomenal. And that's something you touched on there about family and so on. It leads us neatly into kind of the meat of what I really wanted to get into today, which was how, as a business owner, I'm 20 years, so just behind you in my business. Mm-hmm. And 12 of those, coming up to 13 since I launched my own brand in my own right and have been working for myself. But the majority of that time has been spent in the weeds. We've been successful. We've grown over that time. We're now just reaching that tipping point where things are exploding, which is
good for
so
you.
Awesome. Yeah, we just brought custom footwear on, and that I underestimated the market, coupled with our customer service and attention to detail and so on. It's just a dream recipe. So I suddenly have fully established business, and then I have baby fledgling business, but baby fledgling business is already 6'2" and growing out of its pants every week, And so just as I thought that I'd got to the point where I was starting to, and I think I read somewhere you're with me on what I'm about to say, because a lot of people will say, okay, well, you're obviously in a good place. You're getting time for yourself and for your family, and then you're running your business, and that's all ticking along, and you've got some infrastructure around to help the business to run when you're not around all the time. You've achieved balance. And I always say, I don't believe that there is such a thing in balance.
I agree with you there.
Yeah, whether it's in business, I believe that to be universally the case.
Yeah.
And I give people the example of a seesaw. You could have two Jeffs who are identical in every single way, right down to the pound. And I could put both of you on each end of a seesaw. Neither one of you will be able to balance for even a microsecond at exactly the same level, both of you up in the air. One's always going to be slightly higher than the other, or up or down. And that's kind of how I equate life. It's just as you think you're kind of getting to that equilibrium point and you're just keeping everything, you feel like you're just about to get everything in balance. Something happens, something comes along, some event occurs that then puts more weight on one side of the seesaw than the other. And then one of you goes shooting up and the other one comes crashing down.
Yeah. A lot of truth there. I express it a little differently, but we're in theory and in concept, we're in 100% agreement. I like the seesaw analogy. My analogy is, when Lady Justice with her bronze scale stands up with it in her hand, and those two trays are perfectly balanced, what does the meter read? It reads 0. Well, I don't want 0 of anything. I want 100% of all I can get. And it's on me as the leader in my family, in my business, for myself, to manage that. And some days one thing gets more than the other, but I keep focus on the most important things. And so I have a pretty fierce demand on my time, who gets in, who doesn't, how people get in. I am very giving. I will get on the phone with people, but that will be around the parameters that I set.
Yeah.
And, if that means we have to wait to talk for 2 or 3 weeks, then that's just what it is. I'm not in the business of putting people on the moon. I'm not in the business of curing cancer. So what I do isn't all that important nor urgent. In other words, few people need to get a hold of me in crisis, right? And that allows me to keep a really great focus. I'll share this story. I do consulting. I have a coaching group aside from my retail business.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working with somebody once who was a realtor, and she was just burning the candle at both ends, hating life. And I come to learn that she's taking phone calls from people at 1 and 2 in the morning. And I'm like, well, first of all, who in the world are these crazy people who actually want to dial up their realtor at 1 and 2 in the morning? That's just, first and foremost, that's just insane behavior. And the fact that you as the business person allow it to happen is ridiculous. I said, so you've been doing that for years. You say it's part of your DNA at this point. How many buyers who've called you at ridiculous hours of the night, which I would say is really beyond 9 o'clock in the evening, how many people have actually bought a home from you? And she said, 1. Who behave that way. I said, 1 person. And I said, the commission on that was what, about $3,000? Yeah. I said, so you're working allowing these crazy requests to be thrust upon you for $3,000 spread out over about 15 years. I think you could do without the $3,000. $3,000 isn't going to change your life in any given moment at any given time. You have a 2-income home. I understand the ebbs and flows of a realtor and their sales commissions. I understand it, but $3,000 is available to you on a credit card at any given time.
Yeah.
Go open one up, set it in a safe. Don't use it for just this example, but you have got to take control and you've got to set expectation. And I think many business owners just don't do that. And I put it to people this way. If it's hard for you to grasp what I've just said, let's say you're diagnosed with 4 clogged arteries right now. The doctor says, you need to get this taken care of. Here's the experts. You call them up and one of them says, yeah, I can get you in tomorrow. And, oh, you got 4 that are clogged? I'll tell you what, I'll check that 5th one out for free. Get you in at 1 in the afternoon. Are you going to that person for your heart as an expert? No way. No way. I want the guy that's got his booked out to day 28 because my guy said I can live 30 days. I'll get in right under, and I want the professional. Right? And so having parameters and having people, these little micro tests of behavior, these little micro tests of time exchanges, these little micro tests of doing something in exchange for your value is meaningful because that time spent together creates a bigger, better relationship. And so like my Sleep Better book, which we use in the retail business, I also happen to license out to others in the industry, which is the reason why you won't find that like on Amazon, because I can't have, 17 different Sleep Better authors, right? It's a local marketing tool.
Yeah.
But customers that get that Sleep Better book and request it, they buy at about a 50% increase over our master bedroom ticket because they've gone through the work. They've made the investment. They're better educated. So when we say finding the right fit, we're speaking the same language. We're not having to waste time educating each other, getting to know each other. We're all on the same page. They enjoy the experience better, and we enjoy working with them. And our goal is to make the purchase the best purchase, the favorite purchase in the entire home. That includes the deck. It includes the landscape, hardscape. It includes the car, the pool, the drapes, the wallpaper, the carpet, the sofa, the TV, everything you show off. No one shows off their mattress.
No.
Right? Like, think about the hill I have to climb.
Yeah.
People spend a lot of money. They invest in their health with us, and they don't get to show it off. Unless you're kind of into that kind of thing where you invite strangers into your bedroom, right? But no judgment. But yeah, generally speaking, you don't even invite mom and dad into your bedroom. It's just not something we do as people, right? It's a private space.
Yeah.
But our goal is to make it the most incredible experience for your home possible. That's the barometer. That's the thermostat we set for ourselves.
Yeah, because that's where the magic happens. Because, you know, I know I rave about anything that makes that much of a difference to my life, and sleep is so important.
Mm-hmm.
So by helping people to obtain something which is, you know, it's like gun to head, you give up the mattress that we provided you, or you got to give up your car. Which one? Jeff, you're not taking my mattress away. You
That's
can
what we
take the
want.
car. Here's the keys. You're not taking my mattress.
Yep.
So going back 22 years, because you know, there'll be a lot of solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call them, listening to this now. And some of them will be at varying different stages of their journeys. And there will be some people listening to this who may be feeling like, you know, maybe they're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years in, that they're not going to make it, or they're losing hope, or they just feel like they're drowning and suffocating.
Mm-hmm.
Were you ever at that kind of stage at any point? Because God knows I have been.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, 100%.
Yeah. So what was
Yeah.
it like when you first opened, and the kind of first few years? You know, what kind of hours were you guys pulling, and what effect was that having on your personal lives?
Yeah. So Ben and I, we worked in the business. Ben a little more so than me, because I was still balancing the wholesale and factory side
Yep.
of my career. But I was there. I would pick up weekends, mostly Sundays, so Ben could be with his family on Sundays. But yeah, it was like that consistent 6 to 7 days, especially once we hit holiday promotion periods. It was consistent. You know, the first couple years were actually better than the middle years. The middle years, we lost our way. The middle years, we tried to be, let's expand, let's grow, let's blow this thing up. And we that took us away from what we did best. It took us away from our experiential focus, because we couldn't be in 2 and 3 places at one time. And you know, the thought was, well, if we have more locations, well, more revenue solves the problems. Well, the reality is, at least in the retail industry, and what I do is, when you go to 2 locations, you really need to get to like 5 or 6 within a year.
Yeah.
Because operationally, there's not a lot different in unit 2 through 6 that you need to do from 1 to 2. And so we really were bearing the burden of the business of 5, 6 units on 2. And that second, despite a lot of feedback and a lot of expert insight, just didn't happen. It just didn't work. And so it was 6 years until we finally, COVID actually helped us put that one to bed and end it, so to say. But it was 6 years of struggle for sure. And it really hampered, you know, the profitability that we had. We always paid ourselves, but boy, the real true profit, the payoff of owning a business, you know, it was some lost time for sure. Yeah. And that wasn't that long ago. I'm not embarrassed to say that. I've shared that with others, you know. But that time was definitely difficult, and it happened because we lost sight of what we bought and what we began to grow. We just kind of lost sight. We should have stuck with that one plan.
Yeah.
And we might be in a different place today because of it, but we are at where we are now, and we're real happy with it. It's working well.
While you were going through all of that, did either of you ever feel any kind of so you're so passionate about giving your clients the best experience, the best product that's the right fit for them. Did you ever feel while you were going through all of that that you were pulling yourselves or taking yourselves away from that core principle that you originally started with, and that opening another location and looking to expand in that way was kind of starting to, or would take you down the path of diluting what you stood for? Does that make sense?
I mean, it definitely did. I work with my team, and my team expresses this to customers. I actually sold my first mattress set for the first time this year, like 2 weeks ago. And I was so excited because I just don't work the floor anymore. I help lead our team. I help grow our team and inspire them and have them be focused. And I get feedback from them, and that dictates, changes. But I kind of forget your question now, where I was going down the road with that, but
with the dilution of your core principles by trying to expand the business in that way.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely did, because we expanded. We had to hire people. We didn't hire the right people. We took what we could get, which was very bad. It wasn't good. And it just didn't honor what we set out to be, that true expert, that true solution that people aspire to buy from. And we got away from that. And now that we're squarely focused back on it, it's fantastic. I can specifically remember the email that I sent to Ben about our outlet, which was our second location, our outlet store, which is what it become over that 6 years of trial and tribulation. I said, I think COVID's going to kill this thing. And I think we gotta prepare now. We got to go to our landlord now while he's in the mode of being agreeable to all the other tenants, because it was just the reality at the time.
Yeah.
We got to get in on that train and get out. And so we presented an offer to get out, and he took it, and we did.
Yeah.
And that was in June of 2020. We shut the doors and turned off the sign for good, Labor Day weekend of 2020. So 3 months later, and we had to pay rent on that location for another year, but operationally the bleeding stopped, and then the focus, and the whole reason of that, as I said, I think things are going to be very different. Boy, was I right in June of 2020. And I said, we have to get back to what our core focus is. And that's being the very best experience you can have for something in your home, and helping. Our purpose is to help people wake up happy so they enjoy their day more. And that might sound very fluffy and like corporate art in a conference room with a mountain behind it, right? Like it might sound like that. But when we relate it this way, like imagine leaving your home and you yell at your teenage son and he gets in a car accident. How would that feel? Because you were upset you didn't sleep well. You go to work and you fire off a nasty email at your manager and you get fired because you didn't sleep well. Well, that's our purpose. We want you to sleep well so you are more productive, so you are more happy. And our mission supports that purpose, because our mission is to change the way you feel about mattress stores. Simple mission. But when you think about it, what's that mean? Most people's perception of the mattress store is high pressure sales tactic, always on sale. I can wheel and deal on a price and get a discount. We don't do any of that at all. I don't advertise on price at all. You won't see a single advertisement. I was just looking over something my Tempur-Pedic rep sent me, who's fantastic. he does a weekly roundup of all the advertisements that are out there. And our industry is still, it's sad. It's sad what desperate times lead people to do. You have really great retailers who have fantastic basis of experience and expertise in their markets doing desperate things, saying things like a $299 mattress will change your life. It's not going to do anything.
No.
It might do more damage. Yeah, it might do more damage. And I can tell when those folks do those kinds of things that they're struggling. We just remain constant on what we do. And we've had times. May last year was one of our best months ever. And we were up against it this year and we didn't hit the number. And we even invested into more advertising to kind of chase that number. And conventional wisdom would say that was a smart thing to do. It didn't feel good for us. Our sales team didn't feel good because they were looking at comp numbers like, wow, we can do really well this month, help a lot of people. And man, I had to do a lot of mental leadership that month. And now June, I don't know what it was, as soon as the calendar page turned, made no sense at all. We've been on fire.
Yeah.
Just on fire.
But it's the same. I don't know if this would even help you, because I'm in awe of you, by the way. But I've never really focused on numbers. So I only realized literally just last week that for 4 months in a row, we have had record 12-month periods. But I've never focused on it because when I wake up in the morning and I have to drag myself out of bed, because it gets harder as you get older, as you know. But the thing that I say to myself is, let's go help some people today.
Yeah.
And my focus through the day isn't how much I'm going to sell to that client and how much I'm going to sell to that client, etc. It is literally, I'm seeing Jeff and I'm seeing John and I'm seeing whoever, I'm just open to working out what it is that I need to do to help them in whatever way they need me for that hour that we're together. And then I move to the next thing and the next thing. And then by the time I get to the end of the day, I just look back and I'm like, okay, yeah, that was pretty good. We helped a bunch of people. And then at some point, my wife will, because she's also our FD, at some point she'll say to me, hey, dude, can you just stop? Like, can you slow down a little bit? Because seriously, we can't keep up with the number of orders that you're putting through. And I'm like, I get to the end of every month and we'll obviously sit down and review things because you have to as a responsible business owner. And she's just like, dude, like this is absolutely like with the footwear business, right? We only launched it recently. We got shoes flying out of our ears all over the place. And I honestly, I don't know how I'm doing it. I didn't target for it. I wasn't going for a number. I'm just trying to help people. That's all. And I think and that's what you guys did. You just shifted slightly from chasing comp numbers or a revenue number to hit a comp number or whatever, and just kind of got back to, again, your principles.
Yep.
And you're killing it.
Yep. We don't manage our company by saying, I've worked with some. I worked with a regional chain. They licensed our CRM software that we built and some of our marketing materials, and they had 4 calls a day. I think they called them rally calls, where it was basically at noon. Okay, we've been open for 2 hours, company wide. We're ahead of the day or we're behind the day. So and so did great. So and so did bad. And I mean, I listened to these calls and it was pretty shocking to me. It was kind of like a Wall Street boiler room feel.
Yeah.
And the thought process was, across 50 stores, if we don't win each and every day, each and every week, and each and every month, we lose. And, listen, successful company, the owner exited. That's a way to run a business. There's no doubt about it. It's not the way I choose to run my business. And so we don't do things like that. The number that I'm determined to get to is we do monitor our door swings because I want to see how effective our marketing and our advertising is. We track everything as best we can. But the number that I look at is I want to look at total door swings. So if we have 100 door swings in a week, let's say, we'll typically be good to have 75 sales tickets as an average. That 25, I speak to my team, I say, those 25 people are on a mission, just like the 75 were. 75 solved their mission. They ended it. They invested in a great night's sleep with us. The other 25, I want to quote because they were with them in that journey. And we can't expect people to remember what they looked at when they left. We show people a few different sets after we have our discussion about needs and how we fit. And they've already forgotten the second one that they tried. They can't even point to it. And we have a big store, but we're not that big. So how could they possibly remember? They need to leave with documentation of their visit. And if that means they go and shop that quote against my competition, fine, whatever. But here's what happens when you help people accomplish their mission at their speed of journey. They do come back, right? Like our industry has this saying, there's no such thing as the be back bus, right? Buyers are liars, and when they say they'll be back, they just lie to you. Well, we make a lot of money that way because out of that 25 number, we get about 12 or 13 back.
Yeah.
So is our close rate 75% or is it more like 85%? It's about 85%.
Yeah.
And that's really the only number I drive hard on because those people came on a journey. The journey of the day wasn't to invest in a mattress. The journey of the day was to understand what technologies are out there, understand what they need, understand if they can truly be helped buying at this level as opposed to online or at a club store. Wherever they're at in that journey, it's our job to figure out and get them to that point to where we can have a to be continued. And then they come back and we have a marketing system in place to follow up with them. And it just works. So our folks just have to follow the system, the process, and it all works out just fine.
Yeah.
That's the number I look at weekly.
Yeah.
I want to see where we're at.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. How, when you talk about business owners getting in their own way, because that can mean so many things. For some people, it's that they just don't want to take risks in order to kind of get to the next level, or it's that, they kind of end up in this sort of endless cycle of being stuck in either a poorly paid job or a reasonably well paid job, but then it's always about that. They're living month to month. And they can never get out of. They're so scared of breaking out of that cycle because it means they risk the mortgage payments and so on. They don't take vacations because they're so scared that the whole world is going to crash around them. Newsflash, anybody that's listening, is because I go through the same fears and so on myself. It's just when I need to take a break, I take a break, and if I take a week off or 2 weeks off, hey, guess what? I come back. Everything seems to be fine, right?
Yep.
But what does that mean for you? Where what's the kind of identifiers for you when you look at someone within your kind of world of business out there, and you're just thinking to yourself, dude, we've really got to coach you and kind of fix some things here, otherwise you're just not going to be able to move from off the paving stone that you're stuck on.
Yeah. I mean, there's school for business and there's university and college for business. But there's no real schooling and education for what happens when you turn on the lights and open the door, right? You can study in a vacuum all you want, but then the harsh realities of the world and just doing business come at you pretty quick. So there really is no guidebook. A lot of people default to, this is my business. It's my name out on the marquee. It's so they have to deal with me. And listen, I've come across business owners. They are very happy to make 150, 200 grand a year. They run some expenses from home through the business. They write off a vacation because they can. Fantastic. Like that. If that's your barometer of happiness and success, fantastic. Most people I talk to want more, just like me. For me, there is no finish line. And I always stretch my personal goals. But if you're that kind of business owner that wants to sell your business, if you want to gain profitability, you can't be the bullet catcher. You can't be the person that's got to do the books at the end of the month and be the person doing all the selling and be the person doing all the putting out the fires. You can't, that isn't a business. That's a high paying, high stress job. I've counseled people over the years when I was on the road, selling to other retailers. Look, your best bet is to close this business, because what you're making, I can go refer you to 2 or 3 other companies right now. They're looking for a manager. You make more money. You'll have a consistent schedule, 2 days off a week. You'll have benefits. You don't have benefits right now. Like, this is not the place for you. So unless you're willing to make drastic change, the best thing is to move on. And you can always come back to your own business. But you have to decide which way you want to go. You can't be that person that does anything. That's not an investable business. And then when I say investable, I'm not saying take on equity or go public. I'm saying get yourself out of all those roles and have the business work for you. I said I sold my first mattress set just a few weeks back, and that's the truth. The other part of the truth is I wasn't in my business for about 6 weeks because I had a total knee replacement and a major leg. I had basically my left leg was reconstructed as a result of a very damaged left knee.
Yeah.
My business partner also was on vacation during that time, maintained his 3-day-a-week schedule at the store, had his weekends off. We did good business. Everything worked because we had process and procedure. And that's, people don't commit to that. They understand what they do and why they do it, but they can't communicate it out. I'm what's called like a visionary. There's a lot of different personality tests out there. The EOS, Gino Wickman rocket fuel test is visionary or integrator. I'm an idea person, but I'm an empathetic integrator because I understand, or I'm empathetic to integrators because I understand my big ideas don't happen without application. And so when I work with people, it's like I'm that ally for the integrator. I bring the big idea in and help them formulate and put them in the direction of process and procedure so they can step back and have that business pay them. That's what I mean by an investable business. That's the first thing that is going to get you an investment if that's your goal. If you're a second or third generation and you're tired of it, you want something new, but you want to honor your family's legacy and you want to sell this thing, you've got to take yourself out. The first step to being an investable business is taking yourself out, still getting your paycheck, still taking profit, while building business value. Then the world opens up. But nobody wants the business of Jeff. Nobody wants the business of Roberto. It's a very hard way to go if that's what you're looking to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I would say to that.
I think from what you've said there as well, that you need to have the end game in mind. Because I remember when I first started, it literally was just, and I can think of hundreds of professions where it's exactly, they all start the same way. You're working for someone else and then you're like, right, I'm going to go do this for myself because I can do it better and probably make some more money and so on. And, for some people, that's pretty much all they want and they're quite happy with that. Mm-hmm. And then others, they want more, but they haven't really actually sat down and thought about what more looks like, or even what the end game looks like. Like, right. Are you going to be doing what you are doing, and one day in 20, 30, 40, 50 years time, when you pass on to the next life or whatever there is after this one, you'll do it selling a mattress or selling a suit, or does retirement look like I sold my business and I'm traveling the world and doing all the things that my partner and I always wanted to do, but a lot of people don't actually sit down and kind of work that out. And once you have worked, sorry, you go.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. What you just said, what you envision, what you and your spouse, you and your partner do. I'm very happy to say this and proud to say it. My wife and I go to West Virginia next month, and we're going to look at land to buy, because something that I want to do, a next iteration of one of my personal businesses, is to own a campground, but like the Disney World and experience of campgrounds, and have a campground where tourists come, but also the local community gets brought in. Because I think when you talk to people and ask them about, did you ever do camping as a kid? If they immediately light up, there was like this positive, happy, maybe life-changing moment for them around camping. And I love that. I love that for me. I love that for my family. We have a nice campsite where we have a trailer park now, our camp trailer parked. And that's what I want to create. To the Gardner's thing about that end goal, Gardner's is actually not really an investable business and a sellable business because of the way we do things, all the lines we curate. We work so much harder than our average peers do. Gardner's is a success because of Ben's operational experience and my industry connection experience.
Yeah.
We actually, some merchants say we make these beds. Really, it's just a private label. I go and make things, like legitimate things. And then when I make them, because I also have the foresight to work these deals out, the vendors go and sell them, and then I make a royalty on everything they sell to other people outside of my market. And so, but our business is not investable in that fact, because you can't just plug another Jeff in, and you can't necessarily just plug another Ben in.
Yeah.
And somebody would come into this and they'd say, you have 11 primary mattress vendors in one location? That's ridiculous. And it is. But we work harder because of our mission and our purpose, and to be the best experience in the home. And so the way we see our business going is we can keep it, we can enjoy those profits for a long, long time, and we can elevate our team. And maybe down the road, that means bringing them in a minority partnership where there's some of their skin in the game.
Yeah.
And we just create an asset that pays us. And that's okay.
Wow. I'm so inspired. You as well as being a visionary, obviously successful in what you do, you're also, and you can see this because of the team that you've built and so on, a great coach. Now, one way that you're going to be doing that in a few weeks' time is you are releasing a book that you've been working on, which I guess is just about ready to be published.
Yep.
Tell us about it, Jeff.
Yeah. So I'm gonna maybe do a little bit of a left turn here with the book, and you put in your booking notes if there's anything that's a no-go. So I hope I'm not stepping out of bounds with this. So my book's called The Space for Leadership, right? Yeah. And it's all about how every leader's got a past, and my past as a child was violent sexual abuse as a child.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of men that are willing to talk about that.
So let me just, so that you feel kind of less, what's the word? Like you might be stepping out of bounds. I have talked about it on this podcast before, and I have talked about it on a couple of other podcasts as well. But I grew up with a lot of physical abuse as a kid, which, I don't need to tell you about the trauma and so on that can create, and how your life can go in one of several ways depending on how you deal with that trauma and the choices that you make, right? So I just wanted to just share that with you. So you're absolutely fine, my friend.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And thank you for sharing. And the thing I stress to people is I never want to have a conversation with somebody about the hierarchy of their trauma. Where does it fit? Well, it wasn't physical abuse. It wasn't sexual abuse. It wasn't emotional abuse. It was, I really tried hard in school and I did the best I could. And I found out I had ADHD later in life, but my parents were always saying the B wasn't good enough. And that just ruined me. If that's what you've lived with, that's your journey. And so space for leadership is whether you lead people or you just lead yourself in a day, it's really about thinking about your past. And if you look at yourself as a leader, you got two weapons of choice. You got a sword and you got a shield. And I look to choose the shield, and create space, right? And if you think about like an epic hero story or a movie, the turning point often is when a shield goes up to the sword blow, space is created and the hero rises and wins. And so with that visual, I got to thinking more as I wrote this book, like, yeah, this is the way I lead. This is the way I need to challenge myself to continue to lead, because I don't purport to be perfect. There's moments of flaws. I talk about some of them in the book, moments of failed leadership. And it's really, it's 11 unique chapters and stories, through that lens of, as a leader, you're to create space. As a leader, your people are spending a third of their life with you, and you have the opportunity for impact. So take it, and maybe you'll help heal those around you, and you'll find healing in some fashion for yourself. Because that's the thing as leaders, we either willingly push that off, we subconsciously push that off, we don't create time for that healing, but the world needs it. And that's what this book is about. And I'm really proud of it. I've brought 11 contributing authors in to write a reflection on the lesson, because I've come to learn, some people learn by reading, they learn by hearing, they learn more being in a room, like a physical video, if you will. So I had 11 people come in and just read a chapter, and I didn't even give them the whole chapter. I gave them the title and a brief, like 1 or 2 lines. And I had them feel called to contribute to each unique chapter. And it was really neat how that all came together. Yeah. So I'm really excited about it. So July 19th, it officially launches on Amazon. And if you look up the Space for Leadership, Jeff Giagnocavo, you'll find it. And I'd be so honored if you chose to pick up a copy.
As soon as it's available for pre-order, I'm there.
Awesome.
God, you and I, like, you're lucky that I don't live in Reading, Pennsylvania, because honestly, the late night conversations that you and I could have. So funny. I was trying to explain to someone the other day who always reacts to situations, like something comes in and hits them, hits us, the business, whatever, and they just react in that moment. And I love your analogy about the sword and the shield. I think it's far more elegant than mine. I just use personal experience all the time, and I explain to them, when I was younger, whenever I would get into a situation of, violence, a fight or something, the ones that I won, where I ended up beating the crap out of the other person, were the ones where I took a deep breath and I basically just created space between me and them to kind of work out what they were doing. And then I would counter. The fights I lost were the ones where I just kind of went in swinging my fists and stuff, and I would be the one that would end up on the floor. Yeah. But I love your sword and shield. I'm going to use that one from now on.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, and I would hope as we've all grown up that, we create space and we don't come back swinging. We create space and, add in that moment for impact and connection and healing. I can be a dangerous man. I do have the training. I do have the skills to be. I don't wish to be, though. I've been that man and I don't want to be. And so for me, this book's been really cool to write. It's been really cool to tell this story. I've been invited to speak on some stages already this year as a result of it, which is a goal. And so, yeah, it's cool. And I really hope that people can be connected to it. And again, I want to stress, if you're listening to this, please don't measure yourself against my past or Roberto's past. If it has framed you in a way that is less than positive, accept it and really try to own it. And I guess I'll leave with, I've begun a practice of asking more questions to get more answers, and asking bigger and better questions each day. I actually ask a big question of myself each day, and it might be a topical question, like for a problem. that's in the moment, and it might be very atmospheric in a question. But I ask more questions, and I realized that, and it might sound very odd for people to hear this, but I feel that my abuse was given to me by God, because I've got the shoulders and the soul to carry the burden. Because two other young men didn't, and they committed suicide as a result of it, that were victims as well of that person. And that's the way I look at it. And it might be very hard for people to hear that. And I understand that. And that's my perspective. It doesn't mean it needs to be yours. But I think the question is, why did this happen to me? What was it for? And what can I learn from it to help and heal others? I think if you ask those three things, you'll find peace and you'll find joy in owning it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing. That's what the book's about.
Wow, I couldn't think of a better way to end this, and I don't want this to end, but also, I've got to let you go at some point.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. I'm so glad that we connected, really.
Likewise.
July 19th, I'm going to be first in line online, obviously.
Wonderful. I will put you on the list.
Yes. And I can't wait to read that. And then could we get back together to maybe talk about the book?
100%.
Awesome. Yep. I look forward to it.
100%.
Jeff, I know we kind of got into some deep stuff there, but I always ask everybody the same question. Have you had fun today?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, this has been great. Really enjoyed it.
Brilliant.
Really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you so much. I can't wait to do this again with you, but obviously post me delving into your new book. So I will make sure that I have links in the show notes, and I'll update the show note links when Jeff's book, The Space for Leadership, is available to pre-order. Jeff, thank you once again. Thank you all for joining us on this episode. Remember to share it with anybody you know who might get some help or be inspired by what Jeff shared today. You can find it, Tailoring Talk, on Instagram for episode updates. And I love feedback, so you can email the show at tailoringtalkpodcast@gmail.com. Have a great week. I'll be back very soon, and be good to each other. I'll see you on the next one.